talking today about climate change, up on the screen, climate change and becoming a net zero society. So what does that actually mean? And the Scottish Government have committed to being a net zero society by 2050. And that's not just net zero carbon, that's actually net zero emissions. So all emissions of anything that contributes to warming the atmosphere, so greenhouse gases. So you're probably all aware the atmosphere is that thin layer of gases that surrounds the Earth, and it contributes to making our planet habitable. And it's mostly made up of nitrogen, so about very roughly 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen. And that leaves sort of less than 1% of the air is argon, and mostly otherwise greenhouse gases and a few other trace elements. And of the greenhouse gases, it's mostly carbon dioxide, water vapor, methane, nitrous oxide, and ozone. So the greenhouse effect is actually a natural effect. And you're probably aware the sun's rays that come in, quite a lot of that is sort of reflected and lost back out to space. Some of it is absorbed by the greenhouse gases and then re-radiated in the atmosphere. And it warms it up by apparently about 33 degrees more than what it would be otherwise. And that's what makes it possible to have life on our planet. So it's a natural effect. So what's the problem then? Well, the problem is the enhanced greenhouse effect. And that is due to human activities. Things like, but not only, burning fossil fuels, land clearance, or agriculture, perhaps. And it's these sort of activities that release more of that cause these emissions of more greenhouse gases. It raises the concentration of greenhouse gas in the atmosphere. And despite it being such a tiny proportion of the atmosphere, it's actually contributing to warming the atmosphere even more. And so you might think, well, what's it matter if the Earth's average temperature raises by about 1 or 2 or 3 degrees? You see more than that temperature change just in one day. What about seasonally? Maybe even a 30-degree change in temperature between here in Scotland, maybe -5, -10 degrees in a very cold winter, plus 25 degrees, hopefully, on a nice hot summer's day. Or in fact, these years, it's more some random hot day, early in spring perhaps, or late in autumn. And that's the thing. It's this change in disruption to our seasons. The science is showing that despite it being such a small increase in average temperature, it's having quite a big impact on making our climate much more volatile. So you're seeing it in raised sea temperatures, melting glaciers, melting ice caps. You've got more hot days each year, less cold days each year, and a whole range of other measures where they're measuring this average warming. And in particular, what's very noticeable is the more frequent and more intense extreme weather events. So probably all been very aware on the news recently about all the fires in Australia. You've got droughts, you've got floods. How many floods have happened in the UK in the last sort of 4 or 5 years compared to the last decade or so? And the impact of all of this is catastrophic. It's catastrophic to life, to environment, to our societies, to our communities, to our infrastructure, to our businesses and organisations, to politics, to all sorts. It affects all areas of life. And the cost is enormous. And some governments, some organisations are recognising we do now face a climate emergency. But what does that actually mean? What do we need to do in order to manage that, to adapt to it? Because we have a legacy of all the effects of these human activities. We can't set the clock back, we can't change things instantly. So we do need to learn to adapt and change, and ideally stop this extra emissions. So the UN climate conferences try to get global agreement on how we can do this. And you're probably all aware of the COP21 Paris Agreement in 2015. So that was a landmark achievement for achieving climate change. Yet there's still much of those actions still remain to be done. And the talks in the COP25 conference didn't really achieve all they set out to do. And if you think about it, trying to change the behaviour of one person can be a tall order. Trying to change the behaviour of every single person on the planet, now that's not an easy task. And especially when there are very powerful people who dismiss the science as false, as deeply flawed. And this could possibly be a legacy from the disinformation that was put out in the late 70s and 80s, partly by companies who recognised the science threatened their future. And it's not too dissimilar, I think, to what happened in the tobacco industry when the science first came out proving a link to cancer. And unfortunately, this is a very ancient strategy. When you don't like the message, kill the messenger. Or, at the very least, discredit the messenger, destroy their reputation. And reputation is everything. Because without reputation, there is no trust. Without trust, you don't believe the message. And when you don't believe the message, there is no action. So what do we need? What kind of leadership do we need now in order for us to know what kind of action needs to be done, to recognise what we could do, and who needs to do what? So there's lots more questions. We're going to start discussing it, but that is what we're here to do today, to discuss what does it mean to become a net zero society. It seems so enormous, it's so impossible, isn't it, for me as an individual, or for us as an organisation or a collective group, to do something as big as changing the climate. And yet there are things that we need to do, things we need to do to adapt right now so that our organisations survive in the best possible way. And also to recognise what does it mean, what needs to change for us to become net zero.